Stipe Miocic just sent out a message on social media. There's a picture of him. I want to say he was like headed to the gym, but the caption was more important, which he says, "The time is near, who's ready?" So, I mean, a couple of things you can take from that. First and foremost is you can take Stipe at his word that he has been saying from day one, never changed his tune one single time. No matter how many times some people were jerks to him about it. He said, "I'm in a pandemic. Soon as it opens up, I'll get in the gym. We'll book a date. It's going to be Daniel Cormier. It's going to be at heavyweight. Purses agreed on, unified. Everything's agreed on. Just need a date." As soon as the date opened up, he was the first to let everybody know, all right, let's start talking to get this thing booked. I mean, not for nothing. Stipe did everything right here. Everything that he said he would do, he did right. But now we are getting a little bit closer. And I don't think Stipe ever threw up this big Hail Mary that this was some undisclosed time. The time was always as soon as possible. What is possible was for somebody else to decide, but now the time is here. The time is now here, and it does really, for the heavyweight division, not only is that good news, for Daniel Cormier, this is great news, but it does create an interesting conversation for what is going to be left in the ashes. What will be left in the aftermath of the heavyweight division? Because one half of that fight is done after that fight. Daniel Cormier is very sincere. Make no mistake, he is going to fight Stipe, and he is not going to return to that octagon with short pants and a mouthpiece. So, let's say Stipe wins. Who does Stipe fight next? I think the answer is pretty obvious. Francis Ngannou. But Stipe has always also alluded very lightly, very, very lightly, but he has alluded that he's on a limited clock himself. So let's say he fights Francis Ngannou. And he beats Francis again, and it goes all 5 rounds. Now they've gone 10 rounds, and Stipe won all 10 rounds. Then let's say Stipe walks away. What do you do with the championship? Well, I would imagine that whoever is in that vacant title fight, should we get there, one half of it is going to be Francis Ngannou. I think it's a pretty good guess to say that Francis Ngannou is going to grab that thing and run with it for a period of time. So Francis Ngannou is now going to have an asterisk next to his career, which is going to be, I am world champion as long as Stipe Miocic stays at home. That's not Francis's fault. I'm just making a conversation of what does happen. Does Stipe walk away after the Daniel fight like Daniel's doing, let somebody else get on with it, who is likely to be Francis Ngannou? And I don't think Francis would have an asterisk next to that championship, because that's all based on perception anyway, and I think that the perception by many people is that Francis has made corrections, closed the gap, and would be the rightful champion. And people might be right. They might be right. Right or wrong, they could make the argument. If Stipe went out there and beat him twice, particularly if it was a long, drawn-out night, you have to understand, the argument gets harder the more rounds there are. If you ever catch somebody, if you ever knock somebody out, that's the way it will be written. He caught me. He gets you in a submission, and it's 2 minutes into the fight. It's not, oh my gosh, he overwhelmed you, and he was so great that he tied you up in 120 seconds. No, it'll be, oh, he caught me, and it was early. He couldn't do that again. That'll just be the perception. If you go out there and it's a long, drawn-out night, and you go all 5 rounds, and one guy never wins a round, I mean, do you see the difference? The point of all of this is that Stipe Miocic is very likely in his next 2 fights to be fighting for a world championship. His next fight for sure, because he's bringing the championship, but regardless of win or lose, Daniel wins, that thing goes vacant. It's very hard for me to believe you can hold a championship fight without putting Stipe in there. Stipe wins, he goes and continues to defend the championship. The question starts to become who? I think the next one would be pretty obvious. It's going to be Francis. Francis might be the one guy you just sit out. I don't even know that you got to put him in there with somebody. He is the one guy who has done enough lifting in a frightening fashion to just put him on ice. I mean, most people have to fight very often because fans and media we just have a short-term memory. You just simply forget what you saw. Francis has left a little bit of an exclamation point. Am I right about that? I don't think anybody's going to be forgetting the work that Francis has done if he were to wait and take on the winner of Stipe versus DC.